Hello, everybody. Happy to meet you today. By taking suggestion but by most famous word in modern sport, actually car race, drivers, start your engines. I would like to invite you at this amazing session with the similar words. Ladies and gentlemen, start your hearts. In fact, if we are together here today is because we trust social business, we work in social business, and we live as a social business woman and man. Or at least, and at the best, we are looking for social wives. Daily, we really put our heart in our job by taking then not impossible mission to join social and business. Andrea Limone from Torino, North Italy, Southern Europe is speaking. I'm a president of Microfinance institution in Italy, and I'm a CEO of Micro Europe, an investment company dedicated to invest, to include more, better, deeper. Investing in financial social provider, MFIs, but not only, focusing on social impact, and so acting daily in terms of social businesses. I'm very happy to moderate this amazing session with a clear goal to go together deeply inside what social business mean, which type of social business exists in Europe. And so let me to introduce our special guest today. We have three relevant speakers about this interesting topic. The first one is Toby Gasley, that is the policy lead at Euclid Network. Euclid Network bringing together organizations that to support social enterprise, social entrepreneurs, and impact-driven leaders from across Europe. Toby works across a number of projects and topics. Most recently, he has been working in a consortium for a consultation for the transition pathway for the proximity and the social economy, together several European networks. He also been leading the European Social Enterprise Monitor project since 2021. And this report for the monitor is due to be launched next week on the 15th of November. And so we are very, very near to this event. Toby today will spoil us some relevant conclusion, we hope. And please, Toby, jump in the debate. Thanks, Toby.
Oh, thank you so much. No spoilers from me, just some small insights, because we want you, of course, to join next week as well. Okay, I will share my screen, and then hopefully you can see it, I think. So yes, thanks so much for that very nice introduction. It's really a pleasure to be here today with all of you and to talk about this very exciting point where we've got to the end of this year of the European Social Enterprise Monitor. And I'm really delighted to share some of the results. I think before I go too far into it, I should also explain a little bit about what the European Social Enterprise Monitor is for anyone who isn't already aware, which I'm sure most of you are. So the European Social Enterprise Monitor is a project which is using a quantitative survey across 21 countries to understand who social enterprises are, the challenges they face, the barriers which are impeding them, and what opportunities they can make most of if only we can solve some of these problems. So this year, we moved from having 8 countries last year to 21 countries, so it expanded very quickly. And now we have a consortium of over 40 organizations, about 100 people, and managed to collect about 2,000 cleaned responses at the end of the survey. So it's we work in a kind of a model where we have national teams where there's usually a social enterprise support organization and a university or research institute working at the national level and at the European level. We bring this together. It's the same survey in each country, so we can actually benchmark the data. We can actually show some comparisons and really look into it quite in detail. And in this map, you can also see that the countries which had the most responses this year were Germany, Austria, and Turkey. But also, you might notice there are not all of the European countries in the monitor at this point. So we actually do hope that when we launch the next edition of the monitor in 2023, September 2023, so a bit of time to prepare. But we'll have some more countries as well, and we'll be able to actually find out even more about what's going on across the European ecosystem. So, who are European social enterprises? Okay, I can't put a graph up for everything because this would take me a very long time to explain. So I really encourage you to join the event on Tuesday, or actually read the report, because there'll be much more information in there which you can go into in detail. The social enterprises which responded to the survey were young. Okay, 6 out of 10 of them were actually founded in the last 10 years. And the most common stage where they are in the business cycle is the early implementation and growth stage, which was about 40% of enterprises. They're also ambitious. So 91% of the ASIM social enterprises actually intends to scale up. And at the moment, they're most often small and medium-sized enterprises, which was about 95% of them. But that's not so surprising given that they're young. And the average age, or median age, was actually 7 years old for these social enterprises. There were some much older social enterprises, particularly in Spain and in Austria, but this is also to do with traditions of the social economy and sort of actually having quite large social enterprises as well. The social enterprises in the ASIM survey are also quite resilient, and they're growing. So they, despite COVID-19, a lot of them, 44%, actually increased the revenues over preceding years, and nearly 60% of them actually expect to hire additional staff and expect increased revenues in future. That's quite a positive outlook. They have a very strong impact orientation also, and working across actually all of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which with most of them, over 80% of them, actually targeting more than one SDG. They're structured in a variety of legal forms, and I think this is very interesting, and this is why I picked this graph in particular to highlight on this slide, because we talk about who they are, but even at the national level, we can see it's quite a diverse picture. There's it's 158 different legal statuses or structures which these enterprises are using, and 8% of them actually use multiple legal forms. So it's quite a complex picture. 66% of them thought it would be a benefit to have a specific status for social enterprise, whether that be they already have one or they'd like one. So that also shows there's quite a lot of appetite for some specific legal structures. And social enterprises are also, ASIM social enterprises are also participatory. And 68% of them have a high or very high involvement of their employees in decision making, and about 44% of them involve their beneficiaries in the production of their products and services. So it's a very interesting picture of these young, ambitious, growing companies, and really trying to drive forward the positive change and impact. The specific things they're doing, the three most common or most worked upon SDGs were SDG 8, 3, and 10. As you can see, they're actually active in all economic sectors, but the most common areas in which they're active was in health and social work and education. Given these sort of standard business areas, 11% of the respondents actually felt they didn't fit into a traditional economic sector and weren't defined by these standard definitions. It's also they're serving a very diverse array of beneficiaries. So it's about 66% of ASIM social enterprises supporting specific target groups of individuals. Also about 60% of them supporting society in general. And then about 30% of them are supporting organizations. The most common group which they're actually supporting are children and young individuals, also women and girls. both around 30%. These are, I'm giving a rough statistic because I think I can say all the percentage points, but you won't benefit from it so much. What also are they doing? They're also engaging in social procurement. So over 60% of ASIM social enterprises actually are selling their products to other firms, and 25% of them are actually already engaging with multinational corporations as clients. So this is quite interesting to see this young, small group of enterprises who are already actually interacting quite a lot with some quite big organizations as well. And then about 18 or 19% were interested in engaging more in B2B sales in future. So this gives an interesting, it's still a very diverse group of enterprises, but they're doing a lot of different things and targeting a lot of different people. So it's not just that social enterprises are targeting one small group and doing one specific thing. They're doing a lot of different things. So they're in a lot of different areas of the economy. How are they financed? Great question. And this is one of the big sections of the survey. The three most common sources of income, as you can see here: trading with consumers, grants from government, local authorities, public sector, trading with profit-oriented companies. But that's just top three sources of income. But income is not all sources of financing, and it's a very diverse array of sources of financing. In fact, we can see actually here there's a lot of different sources of financing, from public financing and self-financing, all the way to using other forms of investment, such as business angels and venture capital. So it's a lot of different sources that social enterprises are going to and actually receiving funding from. Of course, the success rates of different types of financing varies again. Of course, self-financing you might understand to be more successful because you have a bit more control over that decision. But again, while I think this is a very interesting graph, I think that to explain it here is going to take a bit too much time. So I, again, would encourage you to find the reports and then it will have a bit more opportunity to look at the specific details. But beyond sources of financing, it's important to talk about the sort of stability of organizations. And quite worryingly, I guess, or a point of concern could be that over 75% actually have a safe financial planning for less than a year, and 25% only have a safe financial planning for between 0 and 3 months. So this is not a group of enterprises with a lot of reserves and resources and stability. And the most common level of revenue is actually between 0 and 50,000 euros in the past 12-month period. So not a huge amount of revenue either. I know that I'm running late on time, so I'm going as quickly as possible. What are the barriers? I think they're quite ones we might have heard before. The biggest barriers were finance related, so a lack of options to finance the organization when starting up. It was too complex public financing, and a lack of patient capital were the three main financial barriers. There's also issues with visibility and awareness. So poor lobby for social entrepreneurship was quite a big issue, so above 40%. And also that there's a general lack of understanding from public officials, the public in general, but also investors, banks, and support organizations. What do they need? I think one of the things we building on that is financing. Another part of the survey is talking about EU financing, EU funding, and a lot of enterprises were put off from applying to EU financing because they considered it to be a bit too complex and time-consuming. So a simplified access to EU funding would facilitate these enterprises to apply more in future and access to this funding which is available. And I know that the Commission is doing a lot to try and make financial instruments more accessible. Greater political support also would be beneficial. Out of on a scale of 0 to 100, political support was ranked at 33, so that's not very high. And also, that's above 30% of enterprises thought there was a problematic lack of support schemes from the public sector, and also there was a lack of supportive fiscal frameworks as well. more access to support organizations and networks, so knowledge sharing and non-financial supports. There's, of the people who experienced this, over 50% actually said this was a barrier which either much or very much hindered their organization. And a legal status, as mentioned before, over 60% thought that having a specific legal framework or status would be beneficial. So this gives a very quick overview of all of these different aspects. So as I've said, next week, you could join us for the launch of the European reports online or in The Hague. There are some national reports already launched for Austria, Denmark, and the rest on the slide. There are more reports coming. All of these reports are available on the Euclid Network Knowledge Centre, and they will continue to be updated as more reports are published. So if you're interested in some really more country-specific observations, these are the best places to go because they delve really into the statistics at the national level as well. So thank you very much for listening to what I've got to say. And I hope this has been interesting and provided a bit of an overview about who the social enterprises are in Europe. And do feel free to get in touch if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Toby. Very interesting research. We are very eager to see the official presentation. Guys, please delete your screen save about the little figures that Toby spoiled before. And so only official data next week, guys. Very proud to have in Italy so lot number of legal forms for social enterprise. I don't know if something good or is something confusing, probably the second one, but don't worry. And before go ahead, only to remember you that you have some question. I have a lot of question for Toby, and not only, but if you have some question, please write in the chat box on your right. Now we go ahead with the second speaker, Justina. Justina is manager research projects and also conducts a market research study in the demand of microfinance products, access to finance, and the use of financial services. Has a long hands-on experience in conducting qualitative research and quantitative data analysis using statistical software, and writing, publishing a lot of articles on the state of microfinance in the region. And so, who better than Justina could help us to understand why and how microfinance could be considered a social business? Please jump into the debate, Justina. Thanks.
Hello. Let me talk about the position and role of microfinance in social economy. Microfinance has a dual role in the social economy. On the one hand, microfinance institutions are social enterprises themselves, as they are mission-driven and non-profit or not-for-profit enterprises. On the other hand, they are providers of finance for other social enterprises. So they play a role of financiers. So social enterprises financing other social enterprises. Let's have a look now at how MFIs can be seen as social enterprises, starting briefly from the definition. The definition used by European Commission says that social enterprises, such businesses, have social or societal objective and are often socially innovative. They reinvest their profits to achieve social objectives and are managed in an open and responsible manner using democratic or participatory principles. And in case of microfinance institutions, their social objectives are mainly the financial inclusion, with 67% of MFIs considering financial access to be their main purpose of operations. Another 11% of MFIs aim at stimulating growth of existing businesses, and the other 4 5% specifically focus on development of startups or on poverty reduction. But there are also MFIs, 4% of MFIs, which aim at job creation. With continuing with social objectives, MFIs focus on serving vulnerable groups, and the biggest number of MFIs, 100 MFIs in Europe, target women, and altogether 43% of borrowers are women. The second target group is young people, with 79 MFIs serving them. And in these institutions, young people constitute 13% of borrowers. Another target group is rural population, targeted by 77 MFIs, and rural clients constitute 43% of clients of those MFIs which target rural population. As you can see, the last, seemingly the least important group are migrants and refugees, with only 28% of with only 28 MFIs serving this target group, but migrants are gaining importance as a target group, as there's quite a number of institutions which are considering either increasing the support to migrants, financial and non-financial support, or plan to start from a new such support to migrants. So that's a growing target group. When it comes to serving low income groups, we can see that generally MFIs serve broad target market, and half of the institutions provide loans between 21 and 150 percent of GNI per capita, but there's over 1/3 of MFIs which serve low-income people, with the average loan balance below 20% of GNI per capita. Many MFIs follow, monitor the outcomes and impact of their lending activities. And the most common indicator is the number of jobs created as a result of a business taking a loan from an MFI. And we have 44% of MFIs tracking the number of jobs created. The second one is number of newly created businesses. 32 MFIs monitor this indicator, and the number of jobs sustained, with 30% of MFIs collecting data on this. But not all MFIs track outcomes and impact. We have 38% of MFIs which do not collect such data from their clients. Many MFIs are innovative, and they innovate in both financial and non-financial services. Here I would like to show the example of engagement in non-financial services. Basically, there are three types of such services: business development, where MFIs provide coaching or mentoring to already existing businesses, and we have 48% of MFIs providing such service. The other service is entrepreneurship development services, and this type of service focusing on showing and encouraging people to start businesses. And in case of client development services, MFIs focus on providing support, building financial capability, so showing how to run a household budget or how to manage business finance. And as we can see, there's quite a number of MFIs providing these types of services. Many MFIs provide several types of non-financial services, but a quarter of MFIs do not offer such services. They only provide financing. The other example of innovative approach is providing guarantee-free loans. As many as 35% of MFIs have loan products where they do not expect the client to provide any type of guarantee, collateral, or any other type of security. And here the last of my slides is about legal forms. As you can see, non-bank financial institutions, NGOs, and cooperatives are the most popular types of legal forms. As we can see, NGOs, non-profit institutions. NBFIs, most of them are not for profit, meaning that they generate profit, but they reinvest it back into the business. Cooperatives, 26% of MFIs have members and provide services only to members, and members are engaged in the management. They participate in annual meetings, and they can participate in managing in the management board of the institutions. So as you can see, MFIs meet the criteria, the definition of the European Commission for defining social enterprises. And now I would like to give floor to Nicola, who will present the examples of MFIs financing social enterprises. Nicola.
Thank you, Justina. Thank you very much. Your figures and your analysis clearly confirm that the microfinance and microfinance institutions are totally inside the social business framework. And so the floor is for Nicola Benaglio, that works as a senior research officer at the European Microfinance Network, covering a variety of topics. He also coordinates the principal European level publication on microfinance in Europe. Be careful that before joining EMN, he gained a field experience in Peru, joining a cooperative that provides financial services and technical assistance to rural microfinance institutions. So by the ground, by the field experience to the top of analysis of research, let me present Nicola Benaglio speaking about MFI as finance provider for social enterprise, and not only as a social business, but for social business. Jump in, Nicola. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Andrea, for the introduction, and it's really a pleasure to be here today in this panel. And as Andrea just said, I'll try to present a different perspective compared to what Justina just presented, and focus on how MFIs, microfinance institutions in Europe, are supporting social enterprises with their products and services. So at the moment, there are no data and statistics and studies in this respect. So what I'll be presenting is based on observation and exchanges we have done at EMN with some European microcredit providers. So I'll try to focus on the approach that the microcredit providers are taking in supporting social enterprises, the sector financed, and the products they offer. And also I'll try to conclude with some practical examples from clients to give you a flavor of what is already happening in the sector. So first of all, I'd like to focus on how microcredit providers are currently supporting social enterprises and their approach. And from the exchanges we had, there are at least 3 ways that are used by MFIs to enter into this market. So we have microcredit providers that incidentally serve social enterprises. So here I mean microcredit providers that offer the regular microcredit and business development services to micro-entrepreneurs, but also to social entrepreneurs. So these organizations consider that their products and services are suitable also for social entrepreneurs, and they didn't develop specific products. So obviously, in terms of financing, the the volume of support is limited by the current threshold of microfinance in the specific countries. So also this organization do not define specifically what do they mean for social enterprises, and also they often do not track this how many social entrepreneurs they finance, and this makes it a little complicated to understand the portion of their portfolio which is dedicated to this target group. Then we have a second type of providers that explicitly expanded into the social enterprises market. These are microcredit providers that have microcredit as a core activity, but they do also offer larger loans to businesses, and they progressively enter into the social enterprise market by developing dedicated products for these companies. So they offer microcredit and also larger loans to social enterprises, so catering higher financing needs by those clients. And then there's a third category, which is the one of social enterprises financiers that also offer microfinance. And this is another type of we have other type of company which are organizations that focus primarily on social enterprises and social economy financing. And microcredit is just one of the products which is offered by this company, because they focus on social economy at large. So they focus on NGOs, cooperatives, foundations, and also on social enterprises. If we look at the scope of the social enterprise support, we see that considering the heterogeneity of the approaches that I just mentioned, and also the different types of social enterprises financed, there is no standardized definition agreed by MFIs on what can be considered a social enterprise. So for the majority of the organizations that we've been in touch with, social enterprise, the definition of social enterprise revolves around a positive social and environmental impact. They also do not mention the reinvestment of the profit in the company or the democratic and participatory principles which are mentioned in the European Commission definition that Justina presented. Another element which is interesting to stress is the fact that for some providers, especially the largest microcredit providers, they separate between social enterprises and other social economy actors, such as association, foundation, and cooperatives, by considering social economy organization as more commercially driven, whilst they consider social economy actors as more grant-based organizations. Obviously, not all microcredit providers do this distinction, especially because I think it's very difficult to draw a line between these two categories. Also considering the variety of legal forms that the social enterprise can take, as Toby pointed out in his previous presentation. In terms of sector supported by microcredit providers with regard to social enterprises, here I listed a few of them. I'm sure there are much more, also listening to Toby's presentation. So mostly the main sectors supported are the healthcare sector and everything which is related to the disease, prevention of disease. Then there's the cultural sector with support given to artists and cultural organizations. There's the educational sector, the social inclusion and integration sector, especially with regard to people with disability and people that have difficulties in assessing the labor market. Then there's the environmental sector with support provided to projects which are related to ecology, sustainable innovation, and circular economy, and also the housing sector. We'll see some example of clients supported in this sector in a few seconds. Let me first present some of the products that are offered by microcredit providers to social enterprises. If we can go to the next slide, perfect. First of all, we have loans to social entrepreneurs, obviously. Loans, for instance, for working capital or loans for investments. Then we have loans for social economy actors, such as NGOs, charitable, community organizations, cooperatives. These are loans for working capital, real estate purchase, and also specific loans for social economy actors that receive grants. For instance, there are specific products such as bridging loans, which are aimed at supporting social economy actors that till the actual receipt of the grants by these organizations, and also matching loans to support organizations when it comes to the co-financing of projects, for instance, EU projects. Other products offered by, especially by larger providers that offer also microcredit, but that's focused especially on social economy actors, are guarantees and equity. And then there's a wide array of non-financial services which are offered to social enterprises, such as coaching and mentoring, trainings, networking events, and also linkage with investors. These non-financial services are offered by all the organizations we've been in contact with, and as Justina stressed before, this combination of financial and non-financial services is really a key element of the microfinance sector in Europe. In the next slide, we have the names of a few organizations that support social economy, a few microcredit providers that do support social entrepreneurs and social economy in Europe. As you can see, the majority of them are based in the western part of Europe. We have Sweden, we have Belgium, Ireland, and the Netherlands and Spain. But we also have some examples in Poland, Bulgaria, and Romania, so in the eastern part of Europe. And we'll see now some examples of a social enterprise financed by these companies. In the next slide, we have a couple of examples. So the first one is an example of a project financed by Credal, which is a Belgian cooperative which has 70% of its portfolio dedicated to social economy financing, but that also offer a microcredit and also other dedicated loans to social enterprises. And here you will see two psychologists that, thanks to Credal and the financial and non-financial support of Credal, created a cooperative and through this cooperative, they bought a building to host and support people with Alzheimer's disease, and also the partners of this person. Then there's another example of a cooperative supported by Microfonden in Sweden. Microfonden is an organization that is specialized in social economy support. And here you will see a cooperative that hires people which have been long-term unemployed and people with disability. In the next slide, there is another example of a project financed by a microcredit providers in the field of social integration. This project is financed by Credits, which is one of the largest providers of microcredit in Europe. This company also offers larger loans to businesses, and recently they also expanded into social enterprise support by creating dedicated products. And here you will see one of the projects supported by Credits, which is a restaurant that hires people with disability or people finding difficulties in entering the job market. On the right-hand side, there's another example of a cooperative supported by a microfinance institution, this time in Spain, which is Seed Capital Vizcaya. So this is a public company that manages different funds, including funds for microcredit, but also for social entrepreneurship. And here you will see an example of a project in the circular economy field. So they supported this cooperative that has the mission to reduce food waste by processing and commercializing products from local farms that were meant to be destroyed. And so this cooperative received a loan from Seed Capital Vizcaya to produce and commercialize these products. Then in the next slide, we have the last two examples I wanted to show you. One is related to a project in the environmental sector. And this is a project funded by TIZE, which is a loan fund based in Poland. And this loan fund is specialized in micro and SME support, but also in support to non-governmental organizations and social enterprises. And here is an example of a foundation funded by TIZE. And this foundation promotes the establishment of urban meadows in city parks, for instance, or by the road. And they offer products and consultancy services and educational activities to foster the establishment of these urban meadows. And the objective is to improve the quality of life of people living in cities by reducing, for instance, smog and by fostering biodiversity also in cities. And the last project I wanted to present, it's related to the cultural sector. This is a project financed by FBOOM, which is a Belgian microcredit organization specialized in supporting non-for-profit organizations, social entrepreneurs, and also artists and cultural organizations. And this example is exactly about a cultural organization supported by FBOOM. This cultural organization has the mission to use art as a weapon to fight against social inequality, and it involves a variety of people with different backgrounds. They involve in their activity people in poverty, homeless people, professional artists, and other type of citizen. And they needed funding to expand their activities. They needed to buy equipment, and this investment was financed by FBOOM. So these are just some of the examples. I'm sure there are plenty more in the sector. And so it will be very interesting to continue investigating on this topic and to understand how the sector will continue supporting and engaging in supporting social enterprises in the coming years.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, Nicola. Very, very, very interesting, and it's very clear that social business is not only for microfinance institution, but the social enterprise that take money by microfinance. So clearly, microfinance could be inserted into social business. Thank you very much. We needed to run to close the meeting because we are a bit late after our time. Thank you, Toby, to answer the question directly and clearly in the chat. Please, if you have any other question, send a direct message to our panelists that you could contact in the networking space, obviously. And please, before go outside and looking for a new interesting room, to make the pulse. You have the pulse tool on the right near the chat. And please use this pulse to judge this session in order to understand if it was interesting and so on. Thank you very much, guys, for your time. See you in the next meeting, and have a good day. Social day vibes. Bye-bye.